Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast, and it's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's time to look ahead to the waiver wire for a special holiday edition of Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. And, of course, we want to wish everybody a happy holidays from our team to your friends and family out there. We consider a lot of you family who hang out for all the shows, all the live streams. We really appreciate you. So in a time period that's about gratefulness and giving back, we want to give back to everybody out there too. And again, say a heartfelt thank you from all of us here at Fantasy Pros this week to kick off this week's shows. And to help me parse through all the gratefulness and all the players on the waiver wire, DBro, Derek Brown, the king of bros, and everybody's favorite uncle, Pat Fitzmaurice, who comes over and gives you good advice. And maybe you should take it and listen to Uncle Pat, because Uncle Pat knows what he's talking about. But boys, before we begin with all the names to add and all that stuff, I just want to put something out there, because yesterday at MetLife Stadium, that's right, the Meadowlands where the Jets play and the Giants play, there was actually a championship won. There was a lot of winning going on. Now, of course, it wasn't by the Jets or Giants because they were not there. No. Central Jersey flag football, my ladies, my 14U squad that I am the offensive coordinator for, we won the whole damn thing at the Jets tournament. Very exciting. And the 12U girls that my daughter plays quarterback for, unfortunately, we lost a tiebreaker in the bracket system, but we won the lower bracket. So their first bracket win ever. Shout out to the 12U ladies. 14U ladies got the big ring, boys. It was weird. All that winning on that field, the people in the crowd in the stands, but it was so cool to be on the field playing flag football for those girls. And just a tremendous thing. If you have daughters, get out there, find a flag football league for them to play. And if they love athletics, it is a great game for them to play. Also, that turf, having now been on it myself, that is the worst turf I've ever been on. We were at a tournament Saturday, and that turf Saturday in Pennsylvania was better than the NFL turf. This thing was hard. This thing was concrete. It was slippery. It was a disaster. Pat Fitzmaurice, we always see these injuries every year in this stadium, and now I know why.
Good to hear about that firsthand. We've heard about that, and you would think like MetLife would not want to have their name attached to a stadium notorious for being dangerous and causing injuries, but glad to know that you can confirm, Joe, that it is a bad field.
It's, Pat, it's not like, oh, it's kind of lesser. It is definitely one of the worst three, and we have been doing this for about 6 years now. It's one of the worst I've ever been on, and it's hilarious. I'm thinking, how is this possibly an NFL turf right now? There's got to be a better way, but a very cool experience too, just to be on that field with all these amazing people and all these amazing parents who are coaches and the kids, in all the different, the boys divisions and the girls divisions playing football out there on the field. A very cool event. The Giants run a tournament. We were at that one this summer. The Jets tournament was actually at MetLife, which was super cool. So some great stuff. Shout out to NFL Flag too, who's, running these big tournaments and stuff like that. DBro, obviously, again, confirming a lot of suspicions for you about that turf. I'd like to take you out on that turf. I want to tackle you on that turf. And I want you to tell me how it feels after, because I can tell you, I would not want to be falling down on that, especially like a 300-pound lineman falling on top of me. I don't care how many pads I got. That thing is just cement with a little bit of green on top. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, no way, man. You won't catch me on that. I'll pop an Achilles, and shout out to the girls not only for winning, but everybody, I'm guessing, since you did lead the show with this, everybody's Achilles and ACLs are all intact, and that might be the biggest win. That might be the biggest win, man. Joe.
But it is the biggest win. But it was a very cool thing. They took all the pictures of the girls afterwards on the field there with their rings and stuff. Cool moment. Very cool stuff out there.
I saw the rings, man. Those rings are huge.
It had to be. Yeah. Posted some videos too out there. Some really cool stuff. Also, speaking of giving things away this holiday season, again, the Wall Smack is gone. It's given away from Trophy Smack. So here you go. I love this one. Big Al Cervantes. You're the winner, Big Al. I'm sure I got a Big Al cousin, uncle somewhere. I'm just happy for you, Big Al. Hit us up at mailbag@fantasypros.com with your mailing address, screenshot of your YouTube account page while you're logged in. And once we confirm all that, we'll get that prize shipped out to you right again. Big Al Cervantes, how you doing? You're the winner of the Trophy Smack. And when one giveaway goes away, another takes its place. It is now the Fantasy Football Trophy giveaway. Again, the perpetual fantasy football trophy. You can get it engraved on the bottom there. It's so cool. Again, from Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football hardware. How do you win the gorgeous black trophy? I'll tell you. You enter by subscribing to the channel, liking this video, dropping your comments, and ringing the bell till it goes ding so you never miss a piece of content. And we can let you know if you're the big winner of this week's big Trophy Smack giveaway. All right, gents, let's talk about the waiver wire ad of the week. Again, second week in a row, it's not the greatest waiver wire week. So just want to preface this. Situational stuff does matter. So a guy we talked about last week, a guy we talked about on the betting shows too, Bogman was in on him. DBro and I on the live streams, DBro said he's going to score a touchdown, and he did on Thursday Night Football. Jayden Higgins, wide receiver from the Houston Texans, rostered in 23% of leagues. Now, I know Jayden's your guy, DBro, so I'll give you the floor first. Talk to me about what you saw from Higgins on Thursday night against Buffalo and what might be in store for him the rest of season.
I think he's growing into being a weekly strong flex play in a wide receiver 3, and it's right before our eyes, guys. And the only thing we needed was playing time, and he's finally getting it. Last week, he had a 67% route share, a 30% target share, and Nico Collins, I know, did get nicked up in that game, so that's part of that. But what we're seeing from Higgins is the Texans are just allowing talent to get on the field, man. Since week 10, his per route metrics have been absolutely filthy. This guy is drawing a target on 33% of his routes. He has 1.93 yards per route run and a 22.3% first read share. So, I mean, just let him play, man. As long as he's on the field, he's going to draw targets. He's doing that. And the matchups upcoming, some of them aren't great. Like, he gets Indy in week 13. Their secondary is much improved, but KC's giving up production to perimeter wide receivers. Arizona is a pushover at this point unless Will Johnson is in the lineup. Then he gets Vegas and the Chargers. So, Jayden Higgins, welcome to weekly flex and wide receiver 3 territory, sir.
Now, Pat, I know we all really like Jayden Higgins in the draft process this year when we went through all the shows, and I know in the Dynasty show you've talked a lot about him. And the Texans right now are on the bubble of the playoffs, right? They're not eliminated. They're in this thing, right? The defense continues to play great football. Mills has done a good job while Stroud's been hurt. But to DBro's point, right? Like, at a certain point, you got to start putting the best talent on the field and letting them play. And I understand rookies get slow played sometimes, so it feels like a little bit of hey, this is your time now. Get out there and make some plays, kid, because obviously the run game hasn't been what it used to be with the Houston Texans, so they're going to be forced to continue to throw the football more.
Yes, they are, Joe. And Jayden Higgins' talent is just evident. DBro and I were talking the other day about how good Higgins looked in that Thursday night game against the Bills, and the final numbers, not all that spectacular. He got the touchdown, but it was 4 for 38. 9 targets, though, and it could have been a much bigger game for him had a couple of plays worked out a little differently. And had that happen, I think Higgins would have seemed like a more exciting choice for our waiver ad of the week. And let's be honest, Joe, this is a pretty bad week of waivers. I thought last week was more, there was just a lot more on tap. And our waiver ad of the week last week was Emmanuel Wilson, who just had 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. This week, I think we're just trying to catch a shooting star. And,
okay,
like Higgins is 6'4". He's surprisingly fast for a bigger receiver. He looks really polished as a route runner for a rookie, and he's got good hands. And DBro has really loved this guy since the pre-draft season. I can't glom onto that. I was more of a Jayden Higgins bandwagon jumper, but I do kind of want to see where this ride goes over the next few weeks. And in the leagues where I get Higgins, I'm hoping that by the time the Texans get a juicy Week 16 matchup against the Raiders, I'll be able to start Higgins in my semifinal matchups and feel pretty good about it.
All right, let's continue on with some more running back names. Again, it's a little thin pool, but by the way, guys, I just got a text here from the Las Vegas Raiders. Since they fired Chip Kelly, they heard about my offensive coordinator play calling skills, and they want to have me in for an interview later this afternoon. So it looks like a Zoom call for me. Sorry, Chip Kelly. Can you believe that guy was the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL? I had no idea that was the case. I did not realize that until he got fired. Crazy town, bro.
Insane. Just the lack of personnel usage. I will never get over the 6 carries versus the Dallas Cowboys. That as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, he's gone. He's gone. He ain't making it out. Nope.
The whole thing, just crazy stuff. All right, let's get on with a couple of the other guys too. Alvin Kamara looks like he is in a bad spot. And look, we know the good news about the holidays is that, when you have this week, you're going to have all the teams out there. There's no buys, so that's great. So you have a bigger pool of actual players that you want to play. But some of these players might not be there. We saw the Baker Mayfield injury, obviously, some injuries all over the place. But this one here to Alvin Kamara, it certainly seems as though he would at least miss this week here. So Devin Neal, 9% rostered. Pat, let's talk about Devin Neal, who I think is a guy that, if you have Alvin Kamara, obviously you haven't been in love with the idea of starting him lately anyway. He seems like a guy that might be now on that other side of the hill. And I know he wanted to stay in New Orleans, but, staying in New Orleans now looks like it's a situation where he is just kind of being put out to pasture potentially for the rest of the season. So what are your thoughts on Neal and how aggressive people should be on him?
Well, there is an opportunity here for Neal, and there's just not a lot of incentive for the Saints to push it with the 30-year-old Alvin Kamara when the Saints are 2-9.
Right.
So there are two problems here, though, even if Devin Neal does end up as the Saints' lead running back for an extended period. First problem, we classified Taysom Hill as a tight end for fantasy football, but he's basically a running back, and he outcarried Devin Neal 10-7 yesterday. Second problem, the Saints' offensive line has been shredded by injuries, so the Saints don't have much of a running game. Kamara, Devin Neal, and Taysom Hill had a combined 20 carries for 46 yards against the Falcons yesterday, and the Falcons do not exactly have an airtight run defense. So still, if Kamara is out long-term, there are some pretty favorable matchups ahead for the Saints. The Dolphins in Week 13, the Jets in Week 16, the Titans in Week 17. Maybe there's a chance Neal pops down the stretch, although the Saints offense looks pretty limited. So, we're getting to the point, Joe, with Fab. A lot of people are sitting on big stashes of Fab. So if you want a guy, you're going to have to go out and get him. But I think it's probably going to take, if we get word that Kamara is going to miss extended time, it might take at least a double-digit Fab bid, $10 or more, to get Devin Neal on your team.
I got to say, DBro, coming off the bye here, Chris Rodriguez, who's still just 29%. And we talked about him on the show last week that we said, hey, this guy's going on a bye. It looks like really the backfield is more favorable to him the rest of the season. Pick him up because a lot of people will just pass because he's not available this week. But here we are, another week more running back injuries. And Rodriguez to me is the far better pickup if you have waiver, normal running, where you have the ranks of the waiver wire, the inverse order of standings, or even if you have Fab to spend. I think I'd much rather spend it on Chris Rodriguez than I would on Devin Neal. DBro, would you agree with that sentiment?
I actually kind of lean with Neal, and only because of the pass game usage, because because of and I'm not disagreeing with anything that Patty laid out. He's absolutely spot on. But the thing I think pushes me in the direction of Neal is the fact that he also got a 16% target share. So 7 targets, if you're playing in PPR leagues, is going to push the needle for me in Neal's direction, because looking at that and just racking up just cheap PPR production, because Rodriguez isn't going to get that. Now, is Rodriguez still worth the pickup? Absolutely. He's probably a better version of Bam Knight is the way we should view Chris Rodriguez, in that he's going to get 12 to 15 opportunities on the ground. If he rolls up 50 total yards and gets into the end zone, he's probably sniffing somewhere around low-end RB2 production. And talking about favorable schedules, upcoming, Denver Broncos, no thank you. But then he gets the Vikings, you can run on them, then the Giants, and then Dallas to close it in Week 17. So Chris Rodriguez is definitely worth a pickup as well. Pick up both of these guys, and you're probably, if you are sitting on a lot of Fab, you're probably going to have to give out 12 to 15% for Neal. You're probably going to be able to sneak Chris Rodriguez through for cheaper than that, 8 to 10%.
Yeah, I guess
I think so. If he's still out there. The
focus of the Kamara out, it's that easy pivot, in people's minds to Devin Neal. Pat, do you feel that same way too? Would you rather have Neal or Rodriguez going into Week 13?
I think I'd rather have Rodriguez, even though he offers nothing as a pass catcher. In PPR, I think I would rather have Neal.
All right.
One thing just about these Fab bids, Joe, it might not take as much as we think, just because Week 13, we've got no one on bye for the first time in a long time. And we're getting back, hopefully this week, Bucky Irving, Omarion Hampton, and maybe Trey Benson. So maybe there's less of a demand for running backs this week than there has been in recent weeks.
It's a good call.
To that point too, Pat, you're also at that time of year where teams take more losses and they start to check out. It's the holidays. People forget to they're traveling, they forget to put in waiver bids. So to Pat's point, know your league mates to who you're playing against, and judge accordingly those Fab bids. Speaking of PPR running backs, I do want to bring up Dylan Sampson, because Shedeur Sanders made his first start. I'm not shocked that the Browns won. We talked about it on the Betting Pro show. Go follow Betting Pros. Go check us out on the YouTube channel there, because Erickson and I were on that all week from day one of last week on the early look ahead show. And Sampson is 11% roster. Now, Dylan Sampson yesterday, I know he had that one big play, right? So that was great. But he also did have 7 carries for 23 yards, and that big play did go for a touchdown. So you saw that little bit of explosiveness. Now, Sampson's got talent. And I think a lot of us were going, oh, we like Dylan Sampson. And then like, oh, no, they drafted Judkins and then Sampson. That's not great. But with Shedeur Sanders playing quarterback, I know it wasn't perfect yesterday, but it was certainly improved over what we've seen for the Browns most of the season. So can Sampson be a PPR kind of running back flex guy for you that at least is worthy of having on your bench, DBro?
I think he can. And I think one of the biggest takeaways was that Judkins lost a lot of the routes in this backfield last week. So I know Jerome Ford also cut in for some of the action, but Dylan Sampson, I mean, if we're talking about a Browns team that is going to be trailing in almost every game that they're playing, except for maybe against Tennessee, I mean, they get the 49ers, the Titans, the Bears, the Buffalo Bills, Steelers, and the Bengals. I mean, that is a really awesome schedule to finish the season. So it might seem gross, but Dylan Sampson, yeah, he's going to have PPR flex value. And we're going to see how this backfield is divvied up. But if Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback moving forward and not Dylan Gabriel, I got to say, like, I saw more hope out of Shedeur Sanders than what we saw from him as a quarterback this last week than I've seen at any point with Dylan Gabriel starting.
Pat, what are your thoughts on Dylan Sampson? I know the guy who had a good college career. Do you think he's somebody that deserves a bench spot?
Maybe as just a stash. I mean, we saw Quinshon Judkins bang his head on the turf yesterday and thought maybe he had a concussion, but I guess he came back into the game after that. But as long as Judkins is healthy, it would have to be a pretty deep league for you to consider starting Dylan Sampson, I think. So this... Sure,
starting absolutely.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, just in case they want to give him more run down the stretch, because we saw how fast he is. He looked pretty speedy on that long touchdown.
And Sanders is the guy, like his whole thing, Pat, was like, well, he gets rid of the football quick. And that serves those running backs who can catch the ball out of the backfield, right?
Yeah, I mean, it might be an egg worth sitting on for a couple of weeks, Joe, to see if it hatches in time for the playoffs.
That seems uncomfortable, but I'll do it anyway if that's what it takes. All right, let's talk about who to drop. Isaiah Davis, obviously, you know, we talked about him being a handcuff kind of guy. So if you have Breece Hall, I can understand why to keep him. But if you don't have Breece Hall, Neal, Rodriguez, Sampson, Pat, would you drop Isaiah Davis for any of those guys?
If you have Breece Hall and have the roster space to keep Isaiah Davis, like I would rather have the handcuff, I think. Right. But otherwise, sure, drop him if you're desperate for someone this week. And Joe, you know who else probably fits that category now? Who? Rhamondre Stevenson.
Yes.
Like, goodness. Rhamondre got outsnapped by Travion Henderson 46-22 yesterday. Henderson had 21 touches, Rhamondre 7. It's Travion Henderson's backfield now.
Yep. Yes, it is. And you saying it out loud just makes me smile. It's a very good feeling. All right, let's get to some more guys here. We're going to talk about wide receivers in just a minute, but we want to also recognize a sponsor of our show, and that's Hard Rock Bet. And of course, there's lots to be thankful for this week. Family, food, and of course, football. And thanks to Hard Rock Bet, you can easily sneak in some bets while your crazy uncle goes on his annual rant. We all love that crazy. We all got that one uncle, right? So sign up today. You get 150 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet for the first time. If it hits, you get 150 plus your winnings, extra bonus bets. You get all of it. And the Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub is there to help guide you with some trends and streaks and some stats to put you in the right path to victory. So they're basically saying here, have some free money on us. Plus, this week on Hard Rock Bet, you get their 50% profit boost, one for each Thanksgiving game. Boost your same game parlay at SGP Max, so your bets pay extra winnings. And there's new promos every day. So if you're listening to this later, just open the app, check out what's available for the week, and download the Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app right now and make your first deposit. Next up on the list here, let's talk about what's left of the wide receiver core for the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins concussed, which means he is probably not going to play this week, boys and girls. That's just what happens. So they've also got the short week, so you can pretty much guarantee it. Now, Jamar Chase will be back, and the hope, fingers crossed, is that, of course, Joe Burrow returns on Thanksgiving, and we have a lot to be thankful for. So, Andrei Iosivas, I want to talk about him for a second, boys. Pat, let's start with you on this one. Iosivas, a tremendous athlete. We've seen him have some moments in the past, right, when one of these other wide receivers has been down. Is Thanksgiving potentially another one of those moments for Iosivas?
Yeah, we're touting Princeton receivers on the Waiver Wire show. It's come to this. No, I actually think he is a pretty good play. It didn't really work out for Iosivas in week 12. I started him in one league. Like, he wound up with 4 catches for 61 yards, actually led the Bengals in receiving yardage on a day when Joe Flacco was kind of struggling. And now we've got Jamar Chase coming back from his 1-game suspension, but T. Higgins, Thursday night, he's not clearing concussion protocol in a few days. So Iosivas is still going to be the Bengals' number 2 receiver, and he's probably going to be Joe Burrow's number 2 receiver rather than Joe Flacco's. So there is value to that for sure.
How dare you smear the name of an all Ivy League player? How dare you, Pat Fitzmaurice, all Ivy League, and he was a heptathlete at Princeton, I'm learning too, track and field team. I set the school record with 5,715 points in 2022 and was an All-American, so yeah, go track star too. So
I actually...
you're not getting invited to the cotillion, I can tell you that much. That's not happening.
I actually used to work with someone whose son played football at Princeton, and by way of his son, this guy was telling me about Iosivas when he was at Princeton. Like, you would not believe how freakish an athlete this kid is.
That's what I've heard. And he is. And clearly. Like, you have to be if you're going to make it from the Ivy League. Obviously, the NFL. You don't see a lot of that happen very often. But, I'm trying to remember. Didn't Ryan Fitzpatrick go to an Ivy League school? I feel like I heard that once on a broadcast.
Maybe once.
Twice. Maybe that's twice. Sarcasm, everybody. Just in case you're not picking it up. I don't know. DBro, what are your thoughts on Iosivas? And also, I mean, if we're in deeper leagues, should we care about Mitchell Tinsley?
I'm not going to buy into Mitchell Tinsley, although I understand it, Joe. I mean, he had some moments in last week's game. I think it's more of a flash in the pan, but I will buy into Iosivas. I mean, being the number 2 guy in that offense, especially with the matchup this week, like Baltimore's given up the 4th most schedule-adjusted fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Yeah, I can buy into Iosivas again as a flex player, wide receiver 3 this week.
Okay, so what's the spend on a guy like that, guys? DBro, give me a range.
Like $2 to $4. Like, it's not much, man. I think if he's still out there, I think you can get him for that. Like, probably the higher end if you're desperate. I mean, Patty, am I off with that?
No, I agree. In a week where there are no buys, I think that should probably do the trick in most leagues. Maybe deeper leagues, you might have to spend a little more.
All right, let's talk about a Tennessee Titan. That's right, and this is just like ironic, right? This is the perfect thing. Of course, I had him in a couple leagues stashed, and I had some injuries, I had some issues, and I was like, he was hurt going into the week. I was like, Chimere Dike is not going to help me this week. There's just no way, right? And Chimere Dike, look, he helped the Tennessee Titans. I would say it's the best Cam Ward has looked so far, but also it wasn't just, with obviously the receiving skills too, was the return skills, because, returning that punt for the touchdown there. If you have return yardage and Dike's out there, obviously that's a guy you need to have, but he also caught 5 balls for 44 and a touchdown. So Dike was a busy boy in this game. DBro, what are your thoughts on Chimere Dike, who right now, looking at the roster percentage, is out there in 75% of leagues still?
He's worth a pickup. He's just, out of all these guys we got on this list, I feel like we've gone down this rabbit hole a few different times this year with like Tennessee wide receivers. Like, we've talked about Dike in previous shows. We talked about Alec Manor. And I'm just like, I feel like every time we kind of want to buy into this, we get rug pulled. It's like whether Cam Ward plays bad or Tennessee's like, we need to feature more Van Jefferson. That's what we need to do this week. Like, well, I don't know if that's the case, because he had 1 catch on 1 target. I will say this, though. Gunnar Helm was a guy that I picked up in my Dynasty League, too. He'll be the starting tight end next year.
Right, and that's what I'm looking for. I was like, well, I think that guy's going to be the starting tight end next year, so I'm going to pick him up for nothing, and just snuck him through waiver wires a couple of weeks ago. But he had 6 for 51, just putting that out there for people desperate for tight end play. But for you, Pat, your thoughts on Dike as well. Again, it was a highlight reel performance because of the returns, but he has been, I don't want to say a safety blanket, but at least a guy that it seems like Cam Ward definitely has confidence in, and that's something you can't say a lot about a lot of these Tennessee Titans wide receivers.
Yeah, and, I got to see him play for my Wisconsin Badgers, Joe.
That's right.
He played there for most of his college career before ending at Florida, and I thought he was mostly going to be a special teamer in the NFL, to be honest. He was okay as a receiver at Wisconsin, like pretty good by college standards, but I just didn't think he had an NFL future there. Now I'm starting to think maybe he does. So he's more a name to tuck away for the future. I don't think it's safe to lean on any Tennessee Titans pass catchers down the stretch. As DBro was saying, we've kind of gotten rug pulled on that before. But Dike is a fun player. We saw what he could do on that punt return and got the garbage time touchdown yesterday. So I think he's more of a name to remember for 2026.
Also, guys, want to talk about the next player on our list, John Metchie, who we also mentioned last week. And we said, hey, deeper leagues, sneak him through. He's a possession wide receiver. He's a guy that moves the chains. That's what he used to do at Alabama. He had the worst luck possible, gets drafted to a terrible Texans team, has the cancer issues, gets past all that, makes a comeback to the NFL, which is just a stunning thing in and of itself. And things are kind of looking up for him because now he's got Tyrod Taylor, who's, a career backup guy throwing him the football. So he is available in practically 90% of leagues right now, just an 8% roster percentage. In PPR leagues, Pat, is this a guy that can get you 10 to 12 points a week very quietly?
Maybe. I think Metchie could be a decent floor play down the stretch, a possible deep league option. Metchie and Adonai Mitchell led the Jets receivers in snaps and targets yesterday, and we finally have kind of a clear pecking order. It's those two. And now with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback for the Jets, it at least makes the Jets passing game viable. And the Jets have some pretty favorable passing game matchups the rest of the way. The Falcons, Dolphins, Jaguars, and Saints over the next 4 weeks.
And probably playing from behind, just saying, taking a shot there.
You would think.
You would think. DBro, I want to get your take on Metchie, who had 6 for 65 and a touchdown yesterday. Adonai Mitchell, again, just 2 receptions on 7 targets. So again, still finding his way through the offense, perhaps. I don't know what's going on there. Look, it was 2 for 42, so you like the average there, but at the same time, still not connecting. Same thing 2 Thursdays ago, too. It was just not, being able to hole in the ball or catchable targets or whatever it might be at the end of the day. I prefer Metchie. I think he's safer. I think he's consistent. And I always liked the prospect at Alabama just to begin with. They always had J-Mo was the guy that, took the top off the defense, but it was really Metchie in that offense when they were going to those national championships. It was the guy who was just kept moving the chains, just keep prepping him with targets. And it feels like a perfect fit here for a guy like Tyrod Taylor, who that's more their style of play, right? I mean, this is not a guy with a huge arm who's being throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah, I think both these guys are going to be matchup dependent going forward, but looking at them in the same bucket versus DK, if I'm going dumpster diving, I would much rather go to the Jets passing attack. And we could talk about the quarterback play, but also like Pat alluded to, the matchups. I think Metchie is a guy that I'm specifically looking to flex him versus Miami. They've had problems covering the slot. They've given up the 4th most PPR points per target to the slot. But the other 2 matchups here, versus the Falcons and the Jaguars, they have really struggled against perimeter wide receivers. So if you got the bench space, pick up both of these guys and you're flip-flopping matchups, because whether it's Adonai Mitchell and both of these guys getting a 25% target share. I know Adonai has not connected on any of the big plays and stuff like that, but I kind of feel like regression's going to hit in one of these matchups to where if he does hit on one of those big plays, it is going to put you over the top in a flex spot. So pick up both these guys and just play the matchups.
All right, playing the matchups with the Jets, guys. What about Greg Dortch, 18% rostered? Obviously, the amount of volume coming out of Jacoby Brissett the last couple weeks. I think the word prolific is the way. I think, right, Pat? You're the wordsmith around these parts. Would you say prolific is the correct word here to use?
I would say that is an apt word choice, Joe.
Not just a good one. Apt. Well done, sir. Well done.
So apt is 3 letters. You guys can't be impressed by that. You're not allowed.
You know what? It's
little bit. Maybe that's telling. I don't know.
It's not the size of the word, Pat. It's how you use it. So Dortch, 18% rostered, obviously was involved again in the offense last week, but we come to this same problem. Michael Wilson, has 300 yards receiving in 2 weeks. I assume at some point we get Marvin Harrison back. I don't know. Are we ever going to see Kyler Murray again? There's a lot of ifs here surrounding Greg Dortch's value. So DBro, is he even worth looking at, or is this another one of these things where we just kind of let it go by? We were kind of leery about Michael Wilson. We said, hey, look, if you pick him up, if Harrison plays, you get a little concerned. If he doesn't, you roll him out there. And obviously rolled him out there. It was a pretty damn good day again. But what about Greg Dortch? This is now another tier down behind him, behind McBride, right? Now you got Dortch behind both of those guys. And if Marvin Harrison comes back, he becomes non-existent, right?
Yeah, as soon as Marv is back, I think he's back into just nothingness. But I mean, I don't know if Marvin Harrison Jr., if you're picking up Greg Dortch, it is specifically in a deeper league and you're looking to flex him this week because the upcoming matchups are not great. He gets the Buccaneers this week, and that's why I want to talk about him, because he did get the 18% target share, did get into the end zone again. So you'd like to see the target share bump, because last week, and we were kind of preaching, okay, is it fool's gold because he only got a 10% target share? So with the matchup against the Bucs, they've given up the 9th most PPR points per target to slot wide receivers. I think if I'm picking up Dortch, it is specifically to flex him this week in a deeper league because like you're talking about, Joe, as soon as Marvin Harrison Jr. is back, he's back into nothingness. I do not, and I want to put this out there, I do not think Kyler Murray makes another start for the rest of the season. He has been god-awful. The Arizona Cardinals know what they have and what they do not have in him, and that is not a competitive offense or a competitive football team when Kyler Murray is under center.
All right, so Pat, would you prefer a guy like Tyler Lockett, who is playing in an offense now that is going to get a new coordinator today? And, obviously we know Geno Smith and he have a history together. We've talked about that before. He had a big catch in a big spot yesterday, but obviously nothing was going to be good enough there for the Las Vegas Raiders. They were completely lost and, just Geno taking sacks left and right. And it's tough here because it is that time of year and you're looking for some bodies sometimes. Is Lockett a body if Dortch isn't?
It kind of depends on what your objective is, Joe. I think if you're looking for an answer in week 13, Dortch is your guy because as DBro said, the matchup against the Buccaneers is playable. And Marvin Harrison Jr. got reeled out really early last week, which makes me think it wasn't going to be just last week. Well, just the last 2 weeks. It's probably one more week, and then maybe we start talking about MHJ being back in week 14 or so, and then it's the Rams and the Texans, these tough matchups. So Dortch is just 1 week, use him, waive him. Whereas Lockett, you could speculate, and maybe the new offensive coordinator for the Raiders has Lockett more involved.
Okay, so hopefully Lockett more involved there. We'll see how that goes. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the Browns receivers. We mentioned Shedeur earlier because we were talking about Sampson, and I'm not looking for this to be a juggernaut offense, but Isaiah Bond had a big play. Jerry Jeudy had a bad play. Cedric Tillman, 15% rostered. Bond is basically free. Can these guys start to work their way in here a little bit with Shedeur Sanders where they become viable in 14-team leagues, Pat?
It's possible one guy could bubble up to the top, Joe, but I'm not that interested in investing in Browns pass catchers just because I think the passing game is a little too fragmented. There are a lot of branches on that tree and just not enough apples in the tree to shake loose.
All right, not enough apples for the pie that we're going to eat on Thursday. DBro, any thoughts on those guys from Cleveland?
I'm not a pie guy, and I'm not diving into this pumpkin pie.
Come on.
I'm not. I just look. If I'm going to go,
is it come on? I'm not a pie guy, or come on because he's not into the wide receivers, Pat? It's just like
more
pie.
about
it's the pie
the
thing.
Bad pie take.
It's the pie thing. I'm not a pie guy. I would much rather eat a lot more mac and cheese and sides and stuffing than waste the stomach room on pie. Just throwing it out.
This is true. I've spent too much time with Derek Brown in the last couple of years in person. He's not a big dessert guy. Just generally speaking, he's not a big sweets guy. Whereas me. No, like all the cake, all the cookies, all the
Joey likes cake.
I did. Joey likes a good chocolate chip cookie. Joey likes cake. But Pat, I gotta tell you, like pie, especially in my youth, I was never a big pie person. I like fruit. I like dessert. Fruit in my dessert. I don't know. I felt about that, but I've come
Pumpkin
around
pie is
in
gross.
my mid to late 20s. This is the time of year like I'll do the pies, but then that's it. It's only this time of year, Pat. So is that problematic for you that I'm like a period of time pie guy, like it's pie specific?
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm sort of pie is just mostly Thanksgiving thing for me too. Okay. Maybe my wife will do like a rhubarb pie in the summer. That's great. But I like apple pie and pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving. Yes. And my wife recently, well, not recently, more when we first met, she kind of got me into sweet potato pie, which might actually also be superior to pumpkin pie.
A good sweet potato pie is very good. There's one pie all year round that I will always accept, and that is the chocolate cream pie. That is a delicious pie. And if you find a good one too, but it's like everything else. A pie's hit and miss, right? You got to have you have to have the right ratios. Sometimes the crust is good, but the apples aren't. It's vice versa. It's a whole thing, man. That's why I just eat cake. Cake is consistently just better. Would you drop Matthew Golden to pick up some of the guys we're talking about? Because I'm trying to think of other guys, Pat, to drop. And he seems like a guy right now that I'm willing to drop, especially with Jordan Love, favoring a little bit the health-wise too. I think that's got a lot of people potentially concerned.
Yeah, and it's kind of the way the Packers want to play, too. They are a run-heavy team. They want to run and let their defense win games for them, and that was kind of the formula against the Vikings on Sunday. So I think Golden is droppable. Let me throw two more names at you, Joe. A guy who's one who's rostered in almost 50% of Yahoo leagues and another in about 3/4 of Yahoo leagues, Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, both.
Yeah, I mean,
both.
Jackson Smith and Jigba has a 37.3% target share, and I cannot believe we are seeing a player with a target share that enormous 12 weeks into the season. So there might be room for a secondary receiver to be fantasy viable if the Seahawks were slinging it around like crazy. That's not how they want to play. We were just talking about the Packers wanting to run the ball and play defense. It's kind of Seattle too. They want to put you in a sleeper hold and have Sam Darnold throw 25, 26, 27 passes.
DBro, to that point, also, what JSN's done has been brilliant. Also, last week's waiver wire pickup of the week was Emmanuel Wilson we talked about and saying, hey, look, there's a good chance Jacobs isn't playing. Like, let's read the tea leaves from Monday and be ahead of the schedule here. And, of course, we got to Sunday and he didn't play. And I think that's another good lesson here to learn for fantasy football in 2026 for everybody, too, is that when you get these injuries with these guys and these running backs, it doesn't matter if it's a short week or not. Typically speaking, they're going to be on the more conservative side nowadays. It's just very rare unless we're at the very tail end of the season and we're talking like it's playoff kind of football that these guys are going to push through most of the time. It seems like if somebody's hurt, just say goodbye to them for the week, understand that, and be prepared. Because if you were prepared with Emmanuel Wilson, and a lot of people were, but I wouldn't say that the roster percentage skyrocketed off the charts this week. It really didn't. It's a lot of last-minute pickups, but going into Friday, it was still relatively in that like 40-ish range, and I was kind of surprised that it wasn't well over 60 by then.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that all goes back to it's stuffing and cuffing season, man.
Yes,
you should be picking up all these RB2s. And I mean, Pat's talked about this religiously. We've talked about this every single year around this time on this show, where you need to be embracing the uncertainty of injuries this time of year. Like, the volume is piling up for all these players and stuff like that. And guys missing a week in the most pivotal time of your fantasy schedule, and you have the RB2 like an Emmanuel Wilson, can make the whole difference between maybe you make a final playoff spot in your league and maybe you don't.
So, DBro, since you're more of the food guy and less of the dessert guy, is it mac and cheese, is it mashed potatoes, or is it stuffing? What's the superior side for you?
I would order them mac and cheese, stuffing, and then mashed potatoes. Because mashed potatoes, it just depends on how it's done.
Stuffing's a distant third for me.
Well, what that tells me is you've never had good stuffing.
I've had some very good stuffing, but the problem is the fact that it's hard to find good stuffing tells you why it's the third one. Because it's just something that most people just get wrong.
That could be a Northeast thing, though.
Hot take?
In the South, the stuffing's better.
Everything's made with massive amounts of lard and fat and things like that.
And it's better.
That's right. And then we all have coronaries by 29. That's what. All right.
If I get taken out by stuffing, Joe, it's okay.
That's
my time. It's my time.
That's going to be the tombstone. That's the headstone. Derek Brown, fantasy analyst, taken out by stuffing. There you go. Should have listened to Pat Fitzmaurice, stuffing and cuffing. If he had cuffed as well as stuffed, he would have been all right, but he wasn't. All right, let's get to the streamers for Thanksgiving week, week 13 in the NFL. Pat, give me a quarterback you want to stream this week.
How about Cam Ward as a desperation play, or maybe a super flex play? But, ever since the Titans have come out of their bye, Cam Ward has had two of his three best fantasy performances of the season. 13.1 points, not that great. But then yesterday, 23.9. And he is starting to deliver a little bit of rushing value. And this week, the Titans play the Jaguars, who are tough to run on, not as tough to throw on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, look, you're probably going to get Teddy Bridgewater again this week, right? You would imagine. Who knows if we get Aaron Rodgers back next week? Like, there's a lot. Superflex, you're going to be looking for QBs. This is going to be tough. A lot of people probably didn't pick up Kirk Cousins because they were just like miserable about that concept. Who knows? Maybe we'll even see Kenny Pickett replacing Geno Smith. I mean, new OC doesn't mean we keep Geno around either. Not that that's a better pivot, but maybe Cam Ward is in play in Superflex. DBro, who's in play for you at QB?
All right, Joe, it's got to be for me. It's Trevor Lawrence. I'm just going to stay in the same game. Bad defenses all around. We're not worried about the Tennessee Titans pass defense. I mean, since week 7, giving up the 10th most passing yards per game. So this is just going to be a slop fest, man. I'm here for it.
All right, and since the cute little doggy has popped up into your lap, did you want to show the doggy to everybody? Because obviously
Janet. She decides to say hi every now and then.
Janet cares very much about everyone's waiver wire, so everybody loves Janet.
She's got to understand. She's got to hear the streamers of the week, bud. She's got to hear the streamers of the week.
Yeah, Three's company right here. Yeah, I always figured you more of actually Pat's more of the Chrissy, right? He's the blonde. Is that what it is? I'm Jack, and you're the Janet. I think
I'll take it.
By the way, if you get that Three's Company reference, you should probably get a colonoscopy. Just saying. All right, let's get to tight end. Maybe it's time. Great show. Jeez. Underrated. Very funny. Stupid. Very funny. Let's go to DBro. Give me your tight end for the week. What do you have?
Dalton Schultz, man. If he's out there, pick him up immediately. I mean, he's got really good matchups over the next 3 weeks, not just this week. So Indy, Kansas City, and Arizona. Dalton Schultz has been fringe tight end 1 territory for basically since week 3. So a lot of investments in the Houston Texans passing attack on this show, and I don't think it's wrong, Joe.
Pat, tight end for you this week?
I know Isaiah Likely hasn't done anything this year. I don't care. It's all about the matchup. Play your tight ends against the Bengals. Hunter Henry hadn't done anything for weeks, and then he erupted like Mount St. Helens against the Bengals on Sunday. So it's Isaiah.
The offensive line gets healthy too. I mean, that was a tough day there.
This week, Mark Andrews off a bad game. Isaiah Likely, probably room for both Ravens tight ends to have big games against the Bengals.
Mm-hmm. All right, DBro. Let's say with Pat here. Pat, streaming defense for this week.
I think the Chargers are a pretty nice streaming option against the Raiders. Like Geno Smith has been a sack magnet all year. He took 10 sacks yesterday against the Browns. 10. So, and, Chef Geno has been known to cook up the occasional interception as well.
Just on occasion, just once in a while. DBro, how about a defense for this week?
10 sacks. Wow.
Oh, look,
I'm just marinating on that for a second.
Garrett's just played out of his mind, too, this year. He's had a great year.
Yeah, well, I still don't know if he's really happy with signing that contract with no quarterback. But anyway, I digress. I'll stay in the same game, man. Again, slopfest. I think there's going to be turnovers to be had, defensive points. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars against Cam Ward.
Okay. Kicker, DBro. Who do you have?
Will Lutz. The Broncos are going to be able to move the ball at will versus the Commanders. There'll be field goal opportunities, extra points, all the fantasy points for Will Lutz.
And Patty, give me a kicker.
Evan McPherson. He's averaging 11.2 fantasy points over his last 5 games. He had a 54-yarder and a 63-yarder Sunday against the Patriots, and now it looks like McPherson is going to be tied to a Joe Burrow offense.
Yes, the return of Joe Burrow. That's what we'd like to see. Hey, man, that 4:30 game, too. KC, Dallas, a lot on the line for both of those teams. That's one of the best. Dallas, honestly, I'm always usually eating during the Dallas game because typically it's like, like the Cowboys. And those games are kind of like meaningless, it feels like, most of the time. This one's not. This one, I think all day is pretty damn good football. Like, these are the 3 best matchups I've ever remember all 3 games going, yes, I really am interested in all 3 of these games, despite all of the food that I have to stuff into my face. And if you want to stuff more players onto your rosters, use Waiver Central. How do you like that for a transition? Go to fantasypros.com/myplaybook or just download the Fantasy Pros app. Use Waiver Central. Let the tools help you ride these guys all the way to a championship. All right, let's go through the top 5 for the week. DBro, give me your top 5 for week 13 from free agency.
Jayden Higgins kicking it off at number 1. Chris Rodriguez, number 2. Devin Neal, 3. I'm going to sneak in Colston Loveland here. He did take over, run more routes, play more snaps than Cole Kmet this last week. If his role continues to grow, it's going to be good things in fantasy. So Colston Loveland is number 4. And back to stuffing and cuffing season, Brian Robinson Jr., number 5.
All right, Fitzy, your top 5.
Yeah, Jayden Higgins and Chris Rodriguez are my top 2 also. Then we're getting into the stuffing and cuffing, and I think the 2 most indispensable handcuff running backs are Brian Robinson Jr. and Blake Corum. Those guys are basically 1-for-1 replacements. I mean, we wouldn't see Brian Robinson catch 10 passes a game the way Christian McCaffrey does, but he would still be very valuable in that Kyle Shanahan offense. So those 2 guys are 3 and 4, and then Colston Loveland, number 5. Loveland that's a guy I want to be drafting in 2026. Like, he is really talented, and he's kind of had to share tight end snaps with Cole Kmet all year. But man, this guy is good, and he's going to be really good next year.
I have to say, guys, we made it through the whole show, but I'm a little disappointed we didn't talk about a wide receiver that scored a touchdown yesterday that should be added in all leagues. Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston with a big touchdown catch, guys. I mean, if Jameis Winston doesn't make your heart smile, I don't. Oh,
did you see the celly with him and Jackson Dart?
It's so great. I loved it. I loved everything about it. It's so much fun. He's just, I know.
I didn't piece it together.
Coordinator today too, which
I didn't piece it together when I was seeing that. I was like, who is that catching the pass? Like,
right,
I'm like, who is that guy?
He's got some moves too. I mean,
like, wait, that's Jameis.
I don't know. It's big spots. When Dark comes back, maybe Winston lines up in the slot a little bit. Works. I'm just saying. Just saying, guys. More Jameis Winston is what we all need this holiday season. Don't forget, everybody, the Waiver Wire live stream this week is always on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Join us here live on the channel. Drop your comments below, like this video, subscribe to the channel. You can win this week's trophy from Trophy Smack, and that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Derek Brown and Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday.